Welcome everybody to this week's masterclass where we'll be discussing the things that we need to do to be able to make sure that we have a good end of the year. When I was at the Elite Retreat in February, I think some of you guys were there. If you guys remember what Tom Ferry talked about when it comes to marketing for this year, do you guys remember what he said for those that were there?
Front load it.
That's right. What does that mean, Craig? What does it mean to front load your marketing?
His concept was that we needed to get a lot of the marketing, get our name out there early in the year, because people were going to get distracted as the election rolls around and things like that. And so he wanted to not spread out equally, but more at the front.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, so it's already begun. Now, I don't watch the news, so I don't know if like the news is all about that, but even social media, like I'm starting to see a little bit more every single day that passes by of political stuff, right? Do you guys see who watches the news here? Anybody watch the news or listen to the news at all? Okay, that's interesting. I thought I was the only one that didn't. And so, but I'm assuming that it's already starting, or if not, it's going to very much be in front and center moving forward, right? Like starting, in August, September, October, as we get closer and closer to the election, it's going to get more and more noisy. And so, and then because of that, with that happening, with rates being as where they are at, there's a lot of uncertainty. And today we're going to be discussing how to help our clients get off the fence. Do you guys feel like I know we're on various different markets right now. Who on here feels like you guys have clients that are on the fence? Does anybody feel that way, or do you guys feel like the market's still hot? Like let's get a temperature of the room real quick.
I'll go first, I guess. I mean, our market, I've said before, is, we've been down for a lot longer than most people. And it just continues to be that way. No, buyers generally don't have much urgency. Sellers are locked in with their mortgage rates and aren't real. We have more listings this year than we've had in a long time, more coming to the market, but they're just piled up. We have more inventory than we've had in 13 years. And so, and I can't, I wouldn't move. I'm not moving. And it's really hard to, tell a buyer that, yeah, I would move right now, or given your situation, that's a good thing to do. It's just I think we're just kind of in this period where we have to wait for other conditions we can't control to change, and then just be able to help the people who have a compelling reason. There are still compelling reasons that people need to move, but the days of, hey, we're just going to exchange our 3% mortgage rate and go down the road for another 3% mortgage rate, those days are over.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll discuss that. I mean, that's a good segue, but before we get into that, I wanted to ask anybody else that's in a different market aside from Austin, what is the temperature of the market where you're at? Is it hot? Is it just cooling down? Have you start? I mean, obviously inventory may increase a little bit. I know that in our California office, inventory has not increased all that much. We have less than a 1 month supply of inventory there. So things are still moving. They're not moving as super, super fast, but homes are still selling within less than 30 days. And so, and any of the other markets that you guys are in, I'd like to know, like, what's going on?
So in Atlanta, we're still moving pretty. We haven't really, the beginning of the year was slower than normal, but we haven't slowed down. We were expected to lead the nation in sales. We have a ton of relocation that's happening. So people are having to move. So we're not dealing with, if you look at how money walks and things like that, if people are moving county to county, it's different, but we're actually having out of state. We do a ton of relocation like that. So for us, it's doing well. Our price point obviously is higher. People that are on the fence are kind of looking at that more average home sale, but the investors have not pulled out. The investors have slowed down. We were seeing about 26% year over year, where investors were the ones consuming the inventory, and that's not what we're seeing right now. So the interesting thing is that there are some buyers that are getting into the market now that have enough money to afford the monthlies, that really didn't know what 3 and 4%. They heard about it, but it was like that thing that, happened. So I think we want to see a little bit more of that come into play.
Okay, very good. And then, I know, in Jessica, you're in the second home market there. I know the inventory has gone up significantly. Have you still, I mean, you're still seeing things move, right? They're just things, it's just slower, correct?
Slowly, yes. So like I just did statistics, and it's like the number of sold compared to active listings is 10%. So for example, like we had in the last quarter, in one pocket of our beach area, we had over 1,000 listings and just over 100 sold.
In that month?
Yeah, in that quarter.
Yeah, wait, in the quarter, so one month, 100 homes in a quarter.
A quarter.
What about for the month?
Just looking at my quarter statistics.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What about Adam? What about in your area?
In our area, I'm actually dealing with quite a bit of relocation as well, with P&G, Kroger, GE, and Fidelity. So I've actually been seeing steady. We have kind of a situation in Northern Kentucky where if it's above 400,000 with the rates, we're seeing a significant slowdown of maybe a month longer on market. And if it's below that price point, it's probably going within 25 days on average.
Okay. And then Robert, is that the same for you?
We're seeing a little bit of delays. I don't know if it's full month. It's probably more in the 14 to 21 day delay. There are still a lot of cash buyers that are moving into Central Ohio. And so I think our stat here in Central Ohio is 1 in 5 houses sold to an institutional investor, defined as somebody that owns over 500 doors. So those folks are still in here lowballing the snot out of move-in ready homes, or even homes that they think they can fix up and get rented real quick. So we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown, but I mean, Columbus has positive population growth because we've got a new multi-billion-dollar Intel plant. So we're kind of an outlier when it comes to some of these other major cities, as we're Columbus is getting bigger and everything else in Ohio is getting smaller. So we just have a mass influx of jobs and construction workers right now.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's kind of cool to like know that, you can look at, and you can get stats from like KCM and talk national stats and data, but when you really break it down to a city or county or area, that could be completely off, right? And so I think it's very critical to know your market. And one of the things I think it's how we can do good in this market is to be able to make sure that we are segmenting our audience. Now, what do you guys think I mean by that? What does it mean to segment your audience? What are some ways that we can segment our audience or our clients?
Price point, first time home buyers, move ups, investments, niche it out. Film industry is one that we work with. So we're watching what's going on with that.
Yep. Yeah. Like in any single way that you can define a specific or demographic of buyers and sellers or investors. Because just like, Robert was saying, there's institutional investors that are, your hedge funds, these guys are like, have millions and millions of dollars at their disposal. They're paying cash. So rates have nothing to do with them. Like they don't care. Right. And then you've got your mom and pop investors. They might be a little bit more sensitive towards the rates because they're still getting loans, if they are getting loans. So being able to segment your buyer pool into a whole bunch of different categories will allow every single one of us to be able to be very fine-tuned in the customization of the message that we give to them. Right. Crafting messages that are specific to groups that we are trying to attract is going to be the key in being able to speak to and find those people that are buying. Now, the way in which you do that is you do some research, find out who is buying in your area. Who's buying? Why are they buying? Are they buying because, they're moving into your area from a different area? Find out where they're moving from, right? Find out what type of buyers are buying, what type of sellers are selling. And obviously we know some of those reasons, right? The compelling reasons that people make a move: divorce, divorce, death, baby. I forgot what the acronym was that, talked about all 5 of those things, but segmenting that group and being able to speak to them is going to give you guys the highest probability of speaking their language and talking to them specifically. And then educational content is got to be where how we communicate with people today, right? There's so much misinformation out there. There's so much confusion of what is real, what's not. I get phone calls all the time from sellers that are like, hey, like what commission do I have to pay? Like what's this whole thing about not having to pay buyer's commission anymore? That's still a thing. It's going to be a thing for a while until it gets very much becomes a mainstream thing of what, what the normal, it becomes a normal part of our day-to-day life. And until that point, the more you can explain that in advance to people and educate them, the more you're going to be the person that people want to come to, the more you're going to be the authoritative figure that people connect with. I was making a video yesterday. I didn't post it because I thought it was a little too risky. I didn't want to piss off realtors. So I didn't take the Brian Oliver approach of just being unapologetic. I was trying to be sensitive towards people. But the message I was going to share is that, in our industry, we have this thing called liars or buyers are liars, and how we have this tendency to be really jaded sometimes because we've all had bad experiences with buyers that have come to us and have used us as being just a door opener. And I was making the point that we are not door openers. At least a lot of us are not. And education is the way in which we could separate ourselves from the rest of the 1.5 million agents that are out there, which is pretty crazy that it's there. So educational content is super, super important. And another thing that I think a lot of us as realtors, we miss the mark when it comes to social specifically is going back to what people want to see. I don't know if she's on here or not. Susan, is she on here? Nope. Okay. So like making videos that showcase homes. I know that some of you guys do that, but I see that you guys missed the mark in doing some of those things or doing it effectively. When you showcase a house, a lot of times I see you guys just showcasing the home, and then you're not even on the camera ever. And I know that some of us have this mindset that, oh, well, I look ugly today, or, I've got this pimple in my face, or whatever the excuse is. Like, you guys showing off a home is great, but if you are not the person that's showing it off, then you're missing the opportunity to be able to connect with that person. And I can't tell you how many times I have, just in my previewing of homes, showed the house to somebody, and I've had some random person call me saying, hey, I would like to see that home, or I'd like to see homes like it. So like in this market today, even moving forward in the next 2 quarters, like doing that is going to be a way that you can still connect with people, because guess what? Especially if you know who the audience is and then be able to speak to that audience. Like it makes such a big difference when you talk to somebody and you speak and use vocabulary that is pertained to them. Can someone think of an example of that they can share? Like what's an example of speaking, like if you were making a video to a specific niche group, what would that look like? And making a video specifically to that. What do you guys think?
Emphasize the community. If there's like a gated, sorry for interrupting, who else wanted to talk? Like if there's a gated community, it's safer. The school districts, have a higher rating. If you're talking to like families, or if you're on a Facebook group or anything with moms.
So yeah, Lisa, I think what you're saying is if the group that you're talking to is a family or families that have children that are going to be concerned about school districts, they're going to be concerned about the parks, they're going to be concerned about the walkability to whatever, or safety from, like having that gated community. And talking to that, I think could be a very easy way to be able to, because people that don't have kids, they don't care about kids, it's not even on their radar. Guess what? They're going to skip that video. They're going to completely tune that out. And that's okay. We want that. We want them to be able to immediately, very quickly decide if that video is something that is important to them or not. Because if you just make some generic video about a home, it might not, it's going to be okay. But if you can speak to someone specific, right? If you have a whole bunch of doctors that live in your area, or if you have a whole bunch of whatever, a segmented group of individuals, and you can speak to them about how that house is going to, match with their lifestyle that they have, that could be golden. Any thoughts and questions about that? Okay. Further segmenting the group, I think is critical for us to be able to know that the must buyers. Who are some of those must buy home or buyers right now? Who are they? We mentioned a couple of them, but I want to have this be ingrained in your brain right now. Who is going to have to buy in the next, call it 60 to 120 days?
Growing families.
Yeah.
Growing family. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how much they're growing, right? Because sometimes they might say, gosh, I've got a 3% interest rate. We have a 3-bedroom home. We just had our 3rd kid and we're busting at the seams, but we just can't afford it. So we're gonna have to stay put. Right? So they may be forced to move, but sometimes they can just kind of deal with it, right? For a little bit. But who's I have to buy?
A divorcee, a new divorcee.
Yeah, yeah. Someone's getting a divorce. Now, you can argue that they may not buy, they might sell and rent for a little bit, right? Because of an uncertainty in their lives. But yeah, divorces. Who in this group is specifically targeting people that are getting divorced in your community or in your county or city? Who's doing that? Raise your hand. Isn't that interesting? And we're just talking one segment here, but isn't it interesting that the one segment of the population, because people get divorces every single day, and we're not targeting them. These are people that have to sell, most of the time. They have to sell. They potentially have to buy. And we're not doing anything about it. We're not talking to them. We're not connecting with them. We're not mailing to them. We're not emailing them. What would happen if we did? Do you think that your business would increase if you put a little bit of energy into that have to buy or sell group? Does a person getting a divorce care, or they might care, but are they going to not sell their house because they've got a 3% interest rate? There might be, right? There might be a little small chances that one buys the other person out. Sure. But in most cases, most people don't have multi homes. They just have one home and they don't want to be with that partner anymore. And so they're going to divorce and split. They have to sell that home. And if we are not talking to them, now you might say, well, I don't want to be an ambulance chaser. I get it. But if you come from a place of truly wanting to help them, like it's different. Your tone in which how you connect with them is different.
Nazar, question for you while we're talking about this. We do a lot of divorces simply because, it's not targeted to them, but they're in our farm area, things like that. They know what we do.
Mhm.
Specifically targeting, what do obviously divorce attorneys are one aspect. Another would be certainly watching the court records and direct mailing.
Mhm.
Do you have any experience or any thoughts on what is a good way for someone who wanted to get started in that line?
Yeah. So I'm going to use the same exact thing that I would use for notice of defaults and foreclosures. If you have a notice of default seller that have received a notice of default, they are going to be in the process of, they're going to have to sell their house or they're going to lose their home. It's the same thing with those people that need to sell. So I would send them a letter discreetly, right? It wouldn't be a postcard saying, getting divorced? Well, I'm going to sell, I can sell your house. That's not a postcard that anyone wants to get. They'd be pissed off. But if it's a letter addressed to maybe them separately, the two different spouses, sending letters and then addressing them specifically, not just like Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. and Mrs. whatever, like just, hey, Brian, hey, Ryan, like you're addressing 2 letters, and they could be like completely different looking letters so that, it doesn't look like it's the same thing, and you mail it to them. And then what about going to their house or using a service like Fast People Search or another website that can provide you phone numbers and actually getting on the phone and calling them? Sometimes when someone's going through divorce, and depending on what state you're in, it could go faster or slower. Sometimes it can take years. Sometimes it's as quick as a week, whatever. And so like the nurturing process with that lead, right? You might go to the county and find out someone filed for petition for divorce, but then it's a year long out until they actually, get divorced and are forced by either a judge or in the divorce decree that they're going to sell their home. And so, it's not just it could be low hanging fruit, but it could be something that, takes a little bit of time to nurture. So it can't just be one letter that you send and then bam, it's done. They're going to list their house. You could, but most likely it's going to be multiple letters, every 3 weeks, until you make a connection with them. Going to their home. If you knock on their door, Craig, you do not want to have the script of, hey, I noticed that you guys have filed for divorce and the county records show that you guys are no longer wanting to be married. And I wanted to stop by because I wanted to see if you wanted to sell your house, because you probably have to. And, tell me about what your husband did. I'm sure he's a dirtbag, that type of conversation, might not go well. But if you just go there and say, hey, I'm Craig with Five Realty. I wanted to stop by because your neighbor just sold their house, right? Your neighbor just down the street listed and sold their home. They sold it for these many days. This is their list price. This is sold price. And I just wanted to let you know that that's what happened. And if you have any thoughts on making a move, I'd love to be able to talk to you about it. How long have you guys been here? If you were to make a move, when would that be? And then, like opening it that dialect or that type of conversation. Any other thoughts you guys have about how you would be able to make a connection with people that are having a divorce or going through a divorce? It makes sense that no one's saying anything because it seems like no one is here doing anything with them.
I've always found it to be a more difficult of a transaction. So me specifically, like there's a reason one of them's being kicked to the curb, so I don't really want to work with them. But the sad, thing is we got to work together unless it's already past that. I watch for thirst traps on social media. The one that was either cheated on or whatever is always out there trying to get their best body on and find the replacement. So I have a PhD in that. But it's a more difficult transaction, so that's why I don't go for it. I mean, you're dealing with the psychology of the situation, and a lot of times one person, I'm like, there is a real reason why they are not together. And as as cooperative as they might be, it's still just that's why I don't go after them. But I mean, I guess you could do some things.
So
Brian,
Brian,
look for divorce traps. I love that. I try and network with local divorce attorneys. Like, we all have friends who have been through that situation. Hey, who's your divorce attorney? And then reach out and see if you can either go to a divorce attorney mixer or call their office, see if you can get a meeting, or if you can get an opportunity, like they hang out by the courthouse. So if you just go pony up to the bar at the local watering hole next to the courthouse for happy hours, like, you'll run into divorce attorneys. You just have to dress your best and keep your ears on.
Yeah, and you're right. It is probably not an easier transaction than would be someone that was lovey-dovey and we're getting married for the first time and as a newlywed, and everything's hunky-dory. But guess what? If that's who is moving and you want to sell homes, then you might have to do a little bit of the grunt work that's involved in doing that. Now, I'm not saying that's the only type of transactions happening, but again, if it's not a pillar in your business going forward, like, you might want to reconsider, because I think that just like the barrier of entry in real estate is so low that everyone and their mom gets into it, when the market is hot and things are selling like crazy, you literally could have a pulse and sell homes. There's no skill involved. But when the market gets tough, guess what happens? Those people that don't have any skill sets, they leave, they go do something else in the industry or out of the industry. And those that are left behind have to figure out how to be more scrappy. And so learning how to connect with attorneys that, deal with family law, learning how to send letters and have conversations that are more tactful, that is a skill set that you could hone that will give you the opportunity to be able to connect with that niche. That's a niche that has to sell independent of what the rates are doing. Right? Okay. What's another one? I know that someone mentioned notice of defaults, trust deed sales. You guys, I haven't checked notice of default lists in a long time, but that was literally my bread and butter a long time ago. But if they are there, and they're always there, then that's easily a conversation to be able to have with them as well, right? Like, going to someone that has a notice of default filed, I would take two different approaches. I would either go directly and just be very bold and say, hey, I noticed that you've received a notice of default. Are you familiar with the foreclosure process? Has anyone sat down and explained to you what are your options, what risks there are, what you can do to be able to save your home if you want to save it, or figure out another way to be able to create a strategy so you can start fresh at a later date, whatever. Or you just go and pretend that you have no idea that they have a notice of default and talk to them about, again, their neighbor selling their house and if they want to sell it as well. But either one of those situations requires some work, requires some planning and strategy. It's not just where you wake up and, you know, you have your mouth open, and you're hoping that a lead will come to you and you can work it. It takes effort. And those that do create a wonderful, duplicatable, consistent business because they built those, you know, those relationships. Now, what's really interesting about divorce attorneys is that people that use them end up referring other people to them, right? It's like this, hey, I had a good experience with this attorney, like you should call them. And so if you build relationships with that attorney's going to do the same thing right back at you, right? They're going to be like, hey, this realtor is really, really good and knows their stuff about divorces and is really good at working with, you know, the two different spouses and keeping everybody on track and keeping everybody, you know, informed and just knows how to do it. Like it's an easy way to be able to get consistent business that way. So I encourage you guys to do that. Any other questions about that? Okay. I say that another group would be first-time home buyers. If someone's buying a home for the very first time, they have never had a 3% interest rate. So they don't know what they don't know. And so if they're qualifying to get a property, if they're qualified to get a home based on whatever current rates are, right? They might get an FHA loan, which has an even lower interest rate than a conventional loan would be. That type of buyer is still motivated to buy. And to them, it's all a matter of what is my payment going to be? What am I putting down? Right? What I have to come up with? And then what's my payment going to be based on the purchase price? And it's that simple. So how do we find first-time home buyers? What are some ways that you guys have had strategy or had luck finding first-time home buyers?
I've actually partnered with a loan officer who used to be a property manager for rental companies around here, Village Green. So
Okay.
what we've actually done is we've gone to introduce ourselves to the new property managers and kind of the people who do the leasing. We've actually just last year started doing hosting like a happy hour event where we talk about buying because they're looking for the turnover to get rid of whatever tenants they have to actually raise rent in certain areas. So they're actually okay with tenants leaving, buying and bringing in new tenants because they can raise rent that way. So I've just built relationships with property managers in the area.
If you were to go a little bit deeper, Adam, like what are some things aside from happy hours that you do to be able to provide value to the property management company? And then how do you decide on which property management company you want to do business with?
So the decision on property management companies that I want to do business with are a selective of the areas that I still want to work because some of the renters want to still be in the areas that they're renting. They just want to buy. So that's how we started with selection. As for like the adding value, there will be times where I'll just pop by and provide a gift for the property manager. There will be times where I provide like brochures of like, hey, here's a newsletter of what's happening, and I can hand out to or put in their lobbies, just providing things that the property managers don't have to provide value for their tenants. I can provide it for them so they don't have to do something that month of, hey, here's what's going on.
Okay. I mean, I'm thinking off the cuff here, even if it's as simple as getting together with an insurance company and getting information on renters insurance that a lot of property management companies require the tenants to get, but sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Providing that information to them, saying, hey, here's a quote, because renters insurance is super cheap,
Mm-hmm.
but not a lot of people get it. And sometimes it's in the, you know, the contract that they're supposed to, but they don't, and they don't enforce it. And so getting that information, providing that to them, which would benefit the property management company and the owner, the landlord of the property, and of course do a service to the customer or to the tenant itself as well. But yeah, like who does that? Aside from managers, does anybody else build relationships with property management companies? I know that some of them have a real estate wing side of their business, so they actually list and sell the properties themselves. But a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't want to get involved in the sale. They want to build a business where it's just management because they like that residual income. And then what they do is they will solicit business from realtors, and they have a relationship with them where if you as a realtor give them that property management deal and they are able to solidify that with your investor, and if that investor shows any interest in selling that property management company will go right back to you and saying, hey, I talked to so-and-so and they're looking at selling their house. And so they'll have that type of reciprocity between you and them. And those are the best ones to be able to work with because you know they're not going to try to steal your client after the fact. And so building rapport with them, going to their office, saying hi. Can you guys do it? Yes, you can. Will you? That's entirely up to you, right? Ideas are worth crap. Ideas are worth crap. How do you make money?
Execution.
That's it. It's all about execution. So you can hear all these great ideas. If you don't implement them, then it just goes to crap. Relocation is another one, right? Investors that are cash buyers that are not impacted by interest rates, they're still buying. How are you connecting with investors? Either institutional investors or just mom and pop investors that are paying cash, right? What's happening with the, like rates and crypto and all that stuff is just very volatile. Buying a home long-term wise is a great investment. And people know that and people see that, right? Most people make their wealth in real estate. And so how do we help them? One is to find them. And how do you find investors? What do we do? It's not a rhetorical question. I really want to know from you guys. What are some ways that we can find investors?
On social media.
Online.
Yeah, on social media. What were you saying, Peter?
I said if you search cash offer online, you'll literally connect with tons of investors.
Yeah, cash buyer programs online. I mean, I get solicitation all the time from people that say, "Hey, I'm looking at buying home all cash. If you know anybody, if you know anything, let me know." You could also start making videos, like you were talking about, Rochelle, on Instagram or social or whatever. Like make videos saying, "Hey, this is a great investment," and then walk it down what this property would sell for, what it would rent for. And those of you guys that work in areas where the price point's a little bit less, like those are huge. Right? Especially Robert, like I didn't know that whoever you said was, is putting a big plant there and has a ton of jobs that are people moving into the area. I didn't know that. And I think your price points are like what, 250, 300 still?
335 is our average.
Okay. Well, the 335 is your average, and that means I can theoretically buy a good deal for like 290 or 280, right? Potentially. And
Yep.
so, and then, if you were to put, I see some videos of yours, but I've never seen a video of yours where you're saying, "Hey guys, this property here that just hit the market is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhome that sells for, 225 and it rents for $1,600 a month. If you pay cash, this is your ROI. This is what the HOA is, this is what the tax rate is, and this is what your net would be." Like literally, if every single one of you guys found the one great investment property of the week and then posted on social media, I am confident by the end of a couple months that you would have people flooding your DMs with people saying, "I would be interested in that." Jessica, same thing for you. Like find the best, upside potential Airbnb, the one that has crappy pictures on VRBO and Airbnb, has really crappy furniture that's super dated, and saying, "Hey, you guys, this property rents for this on a monthly basis. It is occupied X amount of times of the year. I think you have all that data. But I know that if you buy this property for this price, because they've been trying to sell it for the last 7 months, and then you do this much, capital improvement to the property, then you can raise rents here and then increase your value of the property here." Like there's so many different ways that we can attract renter or investors. And even today, you guys, if you came up to me and said, "Hey, Nazar, there's this great property," even if it's to flip the home, right? Either it's to flip it or it's to buy it or whatever it is, if you show some level of, competency and share data with them, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be like, "Yeah, I want that. Send me more information." Now, I wouldn't share address or any of that stuff, but you can give them the stats and data and say, "For more information, or if you'd like to be on my private VIP list, please send me a DM." And can you curate a list of VIP buyers that are looking to buy? Sure. And you might have some wannabe buyers, but you might have some ones that are actually legitimately able and have the cash on hand to be able to do so. Have I lost you guys? Are you seeing any, like, I'm trying to today instill within every single one of you, if you guys have this, like, no one's buying, no one is selling, the market's gone to crap, or it's scary, or whatever it is that is the little, drunk monkeys that are in your head right now, I am telling you, there's plenty of opportunity to do business. And I'm sure that most of you guys, if you did 20 transactions in a year, especially those of you guys are, your average price point's like 700, 800, you'd make a decent amount of money. And those of you guys are in the lower price ranges that are, you have to sell at least 20 homes to like make, something decent. You can sell 40, you can sell 60, right? And there's ways to do it. There's absolutely ways to do it. Especially, I think that those of you guys are in the lower price range locations, you could be selling like 4 or 5 homes to one investor, right? You can easily sell a $1 million, whatever, triplex or not triplex, fourplex or 5 homes in a row, whatever it is. I remember back in the day when the market was kind of slowing down, this lady was super, super smart. She would go to new construction and literally sell a block of homes at a time, like 5 homes at a time to one investor, and he would just buy them and rent them all out. Like new construction where there's no headaches, and if it's like a townhome where there's like no maintenance to have to worry about, like those are such a sweet opportunity for investors out of the area. And you guys might think myopically, where you're like, oh, well, no one here wants to buy it. Well, guess what? There's people in New York and Florida and, California and other states that have money that would happily invest in a different state, where if it's, you set up the property management company for them, you set up, a no-brainer opportunity to buy a home that is, doesn't need any maintenance and you can just rent it out the next day. Like those are easy opportunities for everybody. And those that are you guys that are in California, guess what? I would connect with Adam. I would connect with Robert. I would connect with our teams that are in or the states, or just make friends with agents that are in those areas where the price points are more attractive to investors. Connect with them, find out what deals they have, and then post it on your own feed. Because guess what? You can find an investor from California that through you will go to those other agents and buy 5 or 6 of those homes, right? Don't get stuck in, well, no one wants to buy an investment property here where I live. You can sell homes anywhere in the United States. I really want to yell right now. I feel like I need to like shake you guys up and like wake you up, because you guys seem like you're like sleeping on me or on your phones being completely or ignoring me altogether. You don't have to be on this call. You can totally hang up and it'll be okay.
Nazar, with you just saying that and saying about different areas, it just made me look at everybody on the screen. And next time you get on a Zoom call, please put your area so that, we can see what area you're in.
Totally. And turn your damn cameras on. Yes, I appreciate that, Jessica. And I guess even myself, I can do the same thing. But you guys, like, I want you to be excited. Be excited about real estate. Be excited about what's happening. Be excited the fact that it's Thursday today. What are you going to do this weekend? Have you set that up yet? Have you set up your appointments? Do you have appointments set up for this weekend? Do you have an open house? Have you heard about the 1 hour long open house? Have you heard that strategy? Have you learned about ways in which you can connect with those have-to sellers and buyers? And what are you doing this week to talk to them, to make videos to talk to them, to connect with them through either professionals like attorneys and other people that can bring you business like property management companies? Or what are you going to do out to be able to outreach to those individuals? New home constructions, new home sales as well. Like there's so much you can do. And I know because of that, it gets overwhelming, but I want you to focus this next 6 months, the next 5 months, in the midst of all the chaos of the uncertainty that's happening with the election. Like I can care less about the election or about politics. That's just me. And I don't mean to talk politics here, but I want to tell you that in the midst of all this, you can still create opportunity for yourself. You can create it. You can go get it. Does it take effort? Yes, it does. It does take effort. It requires your energy, but I promise you, if you do, you're going to have a phenomenal year. If you don't, if you just sit back, you're like, I don't know what's happening. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening with the market. I don't know what's happening with the world. There might be a World War III. People have been talking about World War IIIs for the last, 20, 30 years or whatever. Like anything could happen, right? You can't control what you can't control, but you can control what you do every single day. You can control how you educate yourself, You can control how you do it. Like you can go on ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I make connections with divorce attorneys? What are the ways that I can do that? And it will spit out an exact, plan for you to do it, and it'll fill your calendar if you wanted it to do as well. Like be resourceful and go out there and get the business. And I promise if you guys do, you'll be happy because you'll be able to do transactions and put money in the bank. And who wants that? Some of you guys. Cool. That's awesome. Good to know. All right, guys, I appreciate you being on here. I hope that you guys find value in these Thursday calls. I invite you guys to invite other people to come join them. That's an easy way for you to be able to say, hey, come learn a little bit more about what we're doing here. And then hopefully that, creates an opportunity for you to be able to have further conversations with them about maybe why they might want to align themselves with Five and align themselves with you as a partner at Five, if you are a partner at Five. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next Thursday. Tomorrow's call will be with Chris Shannon. If you guys want to participate in that, he's going into more of like what he's done or what he's doing to continue to build rapport with agents that are local with the things that they're doing. I don't know, Robert, I don't know if you're going to be on that call as well, and I'm sure you can piggyback on what you and him and what was that lady's name? I just saw a video of her that you guys were doing, the last one that you did. Anyway, it's gonna be a good
Yeah,
call.
but Jamie, Jamie's not with us at 5 yet, but soon.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. All right, guys, have an awesome week. PM me if you have any questions or send me a text message. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys later. Go get business. Go.